Well, this here's a VO Live, and I ain't here to do the introduction just for this week only. I'm a special guest here. So here's your host. Here's Droid Trevor for today.
All right, and welcome back to the VO Life. And this week we have a very interesting interview for many of you because there are so many of you out there chugging along, trying to get to that full-time voiceover path, and you're looking for ways to get there. Well, this guy did it. He took that chance. He walked in one day and said, "Hey, I'm done." And so please welcome Trevor O'Hare.
Thanks. I was done.
Was that as scary as it was a relief? Was it both ways?
So it's such a nerve-wracking decision that you make because, you have a daytime job, you're working 40 hours a week. There's a lot of stability in that, right? So I didn't worry about when my next paycheck was going to be. I knew that I had benefits, right? If something happened health-wise, I could go down to the hospital and get it taken care of right away. There's just all these things that make you comfortable in that job, but are you fulfilled? Are you happy? That's a different discussion. So making that jump was a little crazy, but it's all worked out. I'm still doing this and it's going great.
Good.
So
good.
We'll get into it, but yeah,
that's good to hear.
It can be scary. It can be scary.
So your background in working with VO, of course, you did your part-time stuff, but prior to that, you had some other experiences with music or what kind of piqued your interest to VO?
Yeah, that's right. So primarily, I'm a musician. That's been my hobby, my passion for years, probably since I was 11 years old. My parents gave me a guitar and I started, right? And when I got onto Fiverr, my original intent was not voiceover. It was music production. So I had a gig set up and I would offer music services. I was trying to do jingles or, produce music for other bands and stuff. And it worked to an extent. And what I did was I have all this audio gear. What else can I do on Fiverr to generate some income? And I was well, I have a microphone. I guess I can do voiceover. That's a category here. And I threw up a voiceover gig and it took off. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? What is this voiceover stuff? And that ended up being my primary breadwinner. And I just took it and ran with it, man.
Heck, that's
Fiverr's
awesome.
Crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It is crazy, and it's funny. You can accidentally walk into this stuff. I wanted to do something in broadcasting or something since I was old enough to talk. I was reading sports scores into a Panasonic cassette recorder when I was 5 years old. It was what I wanted to do, but here it is, 50 some odd years later, and we're recording things at work for COVID. And somebody said, you can make money doing that, and I'm like, really? So I kind of stepped in way accidentally, but
it's pretty
yeah,
neat,
that's
though.
really neat. Really neat. It's a lot of fun. So you mentioned Fiverr. You're doing quite a bit on Fiverr. Are you also casting a wider net these days, trying to work the marketing waters?
Yeah, so Fiverr's definitely the main source of income for me, just because, being a top-rated seller now, the amount of work that I can get is really just astronomical. So I'm really happy there. But yeah, I'm definitely doing more direct marketing than I had in the past. That's been my focus this year. So I've recently started using a CRM. I'm using Nimble right now, testing it out. Prior to that, I was using just a spreadsheet, and I would call up production companies or email them and book work that way. Social media has been a good tool for finding direct clients. LinkedIn especially, it's kind of weird. You think of LinkedIn as this crappy work network that nobody really uses, but when it comes time to find VO work, it's actually pretty good.
It is. It really is. Amazing how many people go on there and research things and look for people.
I never would have thought.
That is neat. No, I wouldn't either. As you're doing this, you mentioned spreadsheets. I was always a spreadsheet nut, and I've played a little with Nimble. I started using VoiceOverview to track jobs and auditions and work. And it's not a CRM, but you can put names and addresses in there.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's not good enough. I'm just not there yet. I'm not ready to dive in yet. I hope so. So for these new folks that are out there, and they've been doing this for 6 months or so, and they got to be patient. Talk about the patience of getting into this and what it takes to climb that Fiverr ladder.
Let me tell you about patience. So when you first start out on Fiverr, you know this as well as I do. It can be really tough to get consistent work and to get it at a price that really makes sense long term. So when I first started out with voiceover, yeah, I would get the occasional organic order here and there, but for the most part, I was really digging for those jobs. I was hitting buyer request section every day. I was submitting all 10 buyer requests. I was sharing my gigs on social media. I was doing anything I could to get orders to go through Fiverr so I could get some traction. And it took a while. Voiceover, it wasn't always my primary thing, like we've said. But even when I started to take it more seriously, I had other types of gigs up just so I could have activity in my account because I wasn't always getting the orders. I had a script writing gig at one point, like a copywriting gig. It was a little different, not necessarily for voiceover stuff. And that actually took off to the point where I was like, I don't want to be a writer. I got to pause this gig. It's like too busy. So I ended up doing that and focusing more on voiceover again. But yeah, it's tough, especially when you're like level 1. Level 1 is hard. Level 2 is a little better. But, those goals that they set for you where you've got to make 20 grand, like once you've made 2 grand and then they're like, okay, now make 20. You're like, oh, crap. It's like such a leap.
I'm right there.
Yeah. So
Right
you
there.
know exactly what's going on. So
Yes, sir.
it can be tough to make that jump, but it's just one of those things like, you already made the 2,000, right? Or maybe you just hit level 1. You just made the 400. That's proof of concept. That means you can do it. You just got to keep doing it. And, you make some tweaks here or there. Maybe you have to update your samples, maybe play with your pricing. But if people are paying for your services, you're a professional voice actor and you can make it work. Maybe you need some training or you make some adjustments, but you can make it work, right?
Right.
And you've seen that.
Right.
You've progressed. I've seen you.
Right. Yep, I agree. It's not impossible. So in between Fiverr, family, new baby, a lot going on. So do you try to stick to some time blocks during the day that during this time of the day I'm doing this, during this time I'm doing that, or is it just, gosh, I just got to do what I can when I can?
Yeah, I mean, you're a father, so in the beginning, things are just kind of crazy, and like you're getting sleep when you can. You're getting stuff done when the baby lets you get stuff done. So like right now, my schedule is a little less set in stone. I probably do most of my work in the morning, maybe between like 8 and 12, because my son Rory is a little calmer then. My wife can watch him for a second because she also works from home. Is a luxury that I have. And then I'll record my stuff. I usually get it done by noon, and then we'll go about our day. Other times, maybe I'll have some stuff in the evening. Like right before this, I had a coaching session for an hour. So that was 5 to 6. But like typically, I'll do my stuff in the morning, relax for the rest of the day. I probably work like 3 or 4 hours a day, if I'm being honest.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
that's how it goes.
And I've heard it said today, listening to some other podcasts, this business is 80% marketing and 20% voiceover.
For
Does that
sure.
feel? I think so too, if not
Yeah.
more. It may be 90-10. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
It
I
feels
mean,
like it some days.
Don't get me wrong. That 10% or 20% is vital because if your voiceovers suck, it's going to make it really hard to go full time.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're assuming at this point, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're on Fiverr and you're trying to make it work, that you've got some modicum of talent that you're trying to harness and you're trying to sell it as a service. So, I mean, if you can't do the work, then it's like a non-starter. So I'm really interested in that 10 or 20%. But yeah, most of it is marketing. We're assuming you have the skill or you're willing to develop the skill. And then we got to do the hard work of getting eyeballs on it. Or
Right.
ears.
Right.
So
100%.
yeah, I agree with you, man. It's the marketing.
Yeah, it was kind of it wasn't a realization. I know that's how it is because I know I only spend an hour and a half recording a day, if that. And all the other time is spent digging for leads or auditioning. For me, voices.com took off pretty well. And I get quicker return there. So now I'm letting Fiverr stew. I'm getting better jobs on Fiverr, higher paying jobs. And I feel like I've got things set where they need to be. So I'm going to have to be patient with it and wait on it a little bit, I think. But the other, I have to chase really hard. It was funny today. I popped up a audition on there, and I saw the title of it was Toby. And I thought, it's funny. There's an air conditioning place right up the road, and they use a dog named Toby. Couldn't be them. Well, guess what? It was.
Yeah?
Yeah,
cool.
they're 30 minutes away, and they're on voices.com looking for a voice, and it got shortlisted, so I got my fingers crossed. And, of course, I mentioned in there that I was 30 minutes away and a neighbor.
Gotta.
You never know.
It's always fun when you get a local client. Like on Fiverr, the other day I got an order from a company called Orlando Vacations. It's like orlandovacation.com or something. And it was an organic order. They didn't even know I was from Orlando. And I sent him a message like, dude, I'm up the road. What's up? This is awesome.
Yeah, it's neat. It really
it's always
is
fun.
Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get those that are far, far, far away, and they're fun too, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Man, the internet is crazy. Like our clientele are global. We can reach the entire world on these platforms and with direct marketing. Like think about the opportunity that's there for people. Like, we talk about how difficult it can be to market yourself and to find clients, but they're everywhere. You just have to put the work in, right?
Yeah, and like you said, it's got to be good quality work. And the thing that you got to realize in this, everybody's not going to like you. There's a very high rejection rate in this, but the reward is awesome when you do get the reward, and it's there. It's there. I beat myself up the first 6 months. I said, I'll never be able to do this with an accent. And then all of a sudden, my Southern gig took off, and it passed my main gig, and I'm getting more work off of that. So it can be done. It's not always the voice. It is the way you use the voice, and are you personable? Are you just talking or reading, or are you really selling something? It's not rocket science to a lot of us, but to some people, gosh, I know it's hard for them. Therefore, there are coaches, and you have, like you just said earlier, you've dived into that world. But before we talk about that, let me say this. This is a little different. I heard one of your demos that you had helped somebody with the other day, and it was fantastic. The production quality and all was fantastic. Very, very impressive. So people that are looking to get their first organized well-made demo, they don't, can't afford J. Michael Collins. A lot of people can't pay those crazy prices, Chuck Duran prices yet. They may can later. I think you're a good place to start. Highly recommend that they talk to you about that if they get the opportunity, because that was super production value. Very well done. So if you were starting over today, knowing what you know, would you do anything much differently, or pretty much take the path you took?
Man, well, I would definitely still start out on Fiverr. That was really a great introduction to freelancing in general, because I had never freelanced before. Like, yeah, I'm a musician. I had played in bands. We toured and put out records and stuff. Completely different experience. Completely different. I was never the person to sell myself and my services like almost like a door-to-door salesman. Like Fiverr gives you this platform where you can set up shop, and it's kind of like they hold your hand through the whole thing. Like they time your orders for you. They remind you to get stuff done. They handle the marketing. Like I didn't have to do anything except music and voiceovers. It was awesome. Once you get a little more into it, you can start to do the direct marketing, and then the onus is more on you to handle those other details too. But like starting on Fiverr, I would do that any day of the week. Now, knowing what I know now, I think I would have probably invested a little more in some coaching or like courses to do things the right way on Fiverr. Cause like when I first started, I had no idea how like the algorithm and the search worked. I mean, it's still kind of a mystery to everybody, but we're getting better at understanding it. But my gigs were just trash, if I'm being honest. Like I'm surprised people found me at all, because I wasn't using the proper keywords. I wasn't doing the kind of research that I needed to do with my competition. Like I just put the gigs up and let them hang out. And I did that for months. I got lucky that they got picked up a little bit, but once I started to hone in on setting things up intentionally, focusing on keywords that are relevant to my voice and my service, that's when things really, really took off. Because you know how it goes. Like once your gig gets picked up by Fiverr, you just ride that wave for a while. And then once that wave dies down, you kind of rely on your clients that you already have. The wave picks you back up. You keep going. It's a crazy experience. But that's the thing I would change. I would get a little more guidance from someone who had been there before.
Gotcha. That's something that I've been preaching heavy to people lately is, They're worried about equipment and this and that. No, go get some help, get coaching, get help with your gigs, let people get, help with your thumbnails, because that presence and what people are looking for on there has got to stand out to get the attention. And then you have to be able to deliver. We used to talk about the difference in having, you have this great demo. I went to somebody and I paid $4,000 and I got this demo. Okay, can you reproduce that demo?
Right.
Probably not, and that's very scary. So
yeah,
that's
the thing.
Tough.
Like with the demos that I do, I've had multiple people approach me to do demos, and I've turned them away because they don't have the experience yet to be able to reproduce what I'm doing for them. I want my clients, when they come to me, to already be able to record their voice well enough to like make it worth all of our time. And then how adept are you at adding background music, or, what's your signal chain like? What are we working with here? Because you can spend all the money you want, but it needs to be a reflection of your skill. Like, you're absolutely right about that. I've always self-produced my demos. Some people want a little bit of extra polish on it, but it's got to be reflective of who you are and what your skill level is.
You can cheat and go listen to other people who have paid a lot of money for their demos, and you can learn a lot just by listening to other people. I do a lot of that on voices.com, listen to the top 50 artists on there a lot, listen to what's in their demo, how long do they last, what changes are they making, and what themes are they following. And speaking of that, are you noticing, and I've noticed it lately, of course, two things. Last week I had, I think, 2 or 3 political ads at an odd time of year to get those, all off Fiverr. I did, and they were all, of course, negative towards the current administration, of course, because that's all that's left, to do right now is complain and try to get people prepared, I guess, for the next election. But the other thing I'm noticing is the upbeat, we're coming back, we're opening up, we're this, we're that. Are you seeing a little of that here and there yet?
Yeah, the upbeat stuff is more so what I'm seeing. I had a political ad gig on Fiverr. I paused it. I only have 2 gigs active right now. I have my main voiceover gig and my audiobook gig. But on that main voiceover gig, I have seen some of those like return to work messages, or like, everybody's vaccinated, we're coming back full capacity, that stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting trend. You look at world news, world events, and then you start to see correlations in what's going on in the voiceover world. I'll give you an example. Aside from like back to work and vaccinations, there's been a lot of interest in cryptocurrency lately. Dogecoin and Bitcoin have been in the news a lot lately, and there's been a lot of like volatility in the prices. When all of the Dogecoin news was coming out and people were talking about Elon Musk on SNL, I got like 10 different cryptocurrency orders, like people with cryptocurrency books or YouTube channels or whatever. Like they all wanted to just talk cryptocurrency. I was like, cool, works for me. I like money. I like reading scripts. Let's do it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that all correlates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got contacted on my auction gig on Fiverr by Ravencoin. And
nice.
They have me doing I do a live virtual NFT auction for them every Friday. And
I've seen you talk about that. That's such a cool gig, man.
It is. It's so weird. I mean, I'm sitting here in front of my monitor and people are putting their bids in, and I'm auctioning just like I'm live auctioning, although they're just bidding on the screen, and they have a blast. It's just
so
crazy.
Wild. And I think that's a testament to, like, sorry to interrupt you.
You're fine.
To using the skills that you have to advertise yourself and make money, because you used to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Before you got into voiceover, you had done auctioneering before?
Yep. Yeah. Since 1984, actually. Long time.
You've been doing it for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like you're adept at that. You're very skilled, and you market that, and that's one of your segments. I think that's so cool because not everybody does that. I don't offer that. Not by a long shot.
It fits in with all my other stuff, I guess. You think blue collar and Southern and whatever auctioneering kind of goes right along with it. I'm not going to stand up there and auction off a piece of art with the 25. Would you be 25 now 30? That's not
Do I hear
gonna
45?
happen. So to the gentleman in the back. No, I'm not going to do that.
I
So
think you could do it.
here's a question that may throw you off, may not. Is there anyone out there in this industry that you've looked at or followed or anything and said, man, I wish I could sound like them?
Sound like them? That's an interesting question because I see a lot of auditions on Voices or elsewhere where they reference specific people. You see a lot of like Sam Elliott, Morgan Freeman, whatever. And, in some instances, I think it would be cool to have a really unique voice like that that's really desirable. But I think, another thing that plays into that is their fame, right? So Morgan Freeman is a highly skilled actor. He's been in so many different films and, that's how people know him. I don't know. I've gotten to a place where I really like my voice and I don't think I want to be anybody else. But if I had to choose somebody, it'd probably be something like that because I just would want to make all that money. Every other audition is like, we want you to sound like Sam Elliott. I'm like, I've seen Big Lebowski and I've heard his monologues, but like, I don't sound like the guy.
Yeah, I don't either. I try to do a knockoff of it, but I can't do that. The other one is the guy from The Office, John Krasinski. Am I saying that right? I can't remember.
I'm not sure how to say it. I know who you're talking about, Jim, right?
Jim
from The Office.
Yeah, Jim from The Office. I see his name on a lot of stuff on auditions. Like
as like the guy next door conversation.
Yeah, in the early 30s stuff. Yeah, and here I am getting the stuff on Voices. It's classed age 18 to 35 all the time. I don't ever get stuff in my own age group. It's just weird. They don't know. I'm not going to tell them. They don't
need to know. They just like that voice. That voice of choice, baby.
That's all that matters. Enjoy the voice. Enjoy the ride. So let's pump up your other things a little bit. Let's talk about your coaching a little bit and what you do and how people can reach you, because I want to give them that opportunity to reach out to you.
So with my coaching, what I primarily focus on is not like acting. I'm not teaching people how to read scripts necessarily and perform. What I'm teaching is the business side of voiceover. So, setting up your Fiverr account, or if you're on another platform, we can work on that. Tips for auditioning, I'll do that. I did that with a student the other day. But it's mainly business stuff. So we can talk direct marketing. If you're looking for an acting coach, I can give you some recommendations, but that's not really what I'm here for. I'm interested in helping folks take this hobby, this passion, and make it into something where you can actually make a living from it. That's why I'm here. So
now that's a good different approach. That's not what a lot of people are doing, and you hear people looking for that a lot.
Yeah.
So that should be a good thing to press.
I'm not an actor by trade. I don't have years of training as an actor. I'm just a guy that can talk, and I know how to use audio equipment, and that's how I got into it. So you don't have to have all that acting training to do it, but it's going to help you. So if you find a coach out there that has that skill, like, Anthony Pico, we all know him. He's been doing that kind of stuff for years. So that's the kind of guy I'd be like, yeah, maybe go check him out if you want some acting training. But like for me, I'm more focused on the business of voiceover. That's my interest in coaching, and that's what I offer.
Right. He can also teach you to do this. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
I love that.
That
is such a trademark. You talk about a brand. He's definitely branded right there with that.
He knows what he's doing. He's a good guy.
So that part of business coaching and demos, you'll do demo work. And as you said, if people are ready, you'll screen them and decide if they're ready. And then if they're not, go practice this stuff, come back later.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's great. That tells you a lot about somebody's core, that you're not out to just make a buck. You're actually trying to help people. And that's one of the things that impressed me the first time I talked to you. I could tell there's a genuine interest in what you're doing. It's not, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are so many money trains out there where people are just, get on this program, you pay $200 a month, and you stay in this for a year and a half, and you'll be a great VO, and I'll have $3,000 of your money.
Yeah, everybody's got their hustle. I get it. I respect it. I am not in a position where I need to be like fleecing people like that, or like I don't need every single dollar bill that gets like tossed my way. I'm very thankful for that. You know, I want to run an honest business. I don't want to just take people's money and run. So that's really my whole like philosophy on this coaching, the demo stuff, really everything I do. I just want it to be honest. I want to have a good time. I want people to respect what we're doing together and to feel like they got value out of the service. So, you know, if it's something that people are interested in, all they have to do is go to my website. It's trevorO'Hare.com. And on there, like if it's coaching, my calendar is right on there. So you can actually just pick a time, pick a day, and book it right there. Or for the demo stuff, you can buy it right there, but I would prefer that somebody just send me a message, use the contact page, and we can talk about it first. That would be my preference.
Yeah, absolutely. Good steps. Hey, we're trying to keep these things under 30 minutes, but if we've missed anything else you want to throw in there before we tag off here?
So I think we've touched on pretty much everything that we intended to today. You know, I hang out in the VO life, so if anybody has questions for me, you can tag me in a post in the VO life. I'd be happy to answer them, whether it's related to, you know, any of these topics we touched on today, or if you just have a quick question about Fiverr or whatever, you know, think of me as a resource. You know, Troy and I are good friends. We've been working in these different groups for a while now. So, you know, I'm going to be around. I'm hanging out. So use me as a resource, please. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and your group is called Voices of Fiverr, correct?
That's right. Yep.
All right. So join that group or apply to join. If you pass the test, you might get in.
Well, I just get a lot of folks from, you know, different places that are in like 1,000 groups. And like I do a quick little research and like they're clearly not a voice actor. So I deny them. That's really the only reason I have those questions. But as long as you're interested in voice acting, you're welcome.
Yes. I'm doing the same thing. I've started slow. I've only got about 30. And we may never get to 100, and that's fine. It's just a kind of a small group that followed over from elsewhere. All right. Well, listen, man, thank you so much. I enjoyed this, and we may do this again one day. You never know. But
you never know. I'm around. You know, I don't do too much. We can hang out. We can talk.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, Troy. This was really nice. And for all of you out there, he might do this spiel, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you haven't already, subscribe to his podcast. This is good stuff. He's a genuine guy. All he's going to do is share great information with you. It costs nothing to subscribe. I highly recommend you do it. This stuff is awesome.
That's right, folks. Jump on the tater wagon and take a ride.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Trevor O'Hare, for joining us this week. I hope everybody enjoyed it. This is Get to Know You, where you get to hear these guys talk, that you see them on Facebook and in these groups, and you see them out there working, and you kind of get to know them a little bit. So Trevor's got to get back to the baby and that living that Florida life down there. So if there's a guy who jumped in full-time out of a regular job when he was ready, he made that decision, and I hope that's an inspiration to some of you out there who are looking for that down the road. It's not instant. He just told you it wasn't. It takes a while. And anyway, that's what it's all about. Hey, thanks for joining us right here on The VO Life.